Just change.
What is going on, Chop Nation? I am JB along with my coach Jeremiah James, and you are listening, as always, to Chop Talk. Man, it has been a long time.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of you guys, all of our fans are sitting there thinking these guys must have quit, hung it up, and
they gave it up.
Gave it up because it has been a bit. Man, we are so glad to be back in action here. It has just been a crazy 3 or 4 weeks for us, so we had to take a little bit of a sabbatical as we got through life, but we are back. We are ready to go. So much to talk about. You know, you and I have obviously kept up with one another, so it's not as if we don't know what's been going on in each other's lives for a month. But nevertheless, we are so excited to be back, man. How has the beginning of your week gone so far, bro?
I'm doing well, my firefighting friend. Yeah, no, it's good to see you. It's been a crazy April. I was counting the amount of nights that I've slept in my own bed, and it's not very many in April. Let's put it like that. I was out in Kansas seeing family. We went out to Vegas, had an opportunity to see my boys from college, give a shout out to Andy, Tim, and Nazar. Hung out with them and the wives for a long extended weekend in Vegas. So it's needed a little bit of time away, right? Spring break.
Fun fact, my wife is actually going there at the end of this month. Or the end of May. We're almost
to
the end of May on a work trip.
Sure. Yeah, work trips to Vegas. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, always in quotations.
Yeah. They what's funny is that whenever she goes out on these trips, like, you know, they always work until really, really late into the night, and then they go out, and that's when they do dinner and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She's not always overly like a big fan of it. Like, she loves the time of hanging out with everybody and stuff.
Right.
But it's like at the end of the day, she still likes to rest and sleep because like she's gonna wake up and do it all over again.
Yeah. She's not the type to stay in the casino till like 6 a.m.
She's not going to go in the casino. Like,
pressing red.
Wherever they go is just some fancy dinners or whatever. And then if the rest of them want to go out and do it, she'll be like, peace out.
More power to you. I'm going to bed. Yeah, I got you.
Power to you.
Yeah.
I feel like I've kind of become that way too. I mean, I would stay out a little bit later than her. But nevertheless. So, but yeah, man, that's awesome. I'm glad you were able to take that trip away.
I wanted to share that, I don't know if you saw this, but I've got a beautiful Kansas City Chiefs ball cap. I picked this up in Wichita, Kansas, along with some other paraphernalia that I'm going to be putting back behind me for the show. So I get to wear this new cap, which is very exciting. Gray on gray. Looks great.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Yep. I tried to go and just be a little supportive today, wearing my Magic hat today instead of my normal Florida State clothing. Certainly a rough game, but you know, this has been a fairly tight series except for game one. But nevertheless, go back to Boston, try to steal one and come back to Orlando. So we'll see. You're obviously playing the reigning champs, so that's always a tall task, but we've shown that we can put up the good fight there with it. So yeah, man, just decided to go with the Magic cap today. And for my boys. So praying we can pull something around here and stop that Boston firepower and be able to take one. It is tough. It is.
They are legit.
I don't know if you saw on my Facebook today. I think I might have posted it last night. Just to kind of real quick on basketball, but you know, the truth of the matter is that, you know, you can't take anything away from guys like, you know, Jason Tatum. Right, had an awesome game. Injured, not feeling the greatest, but, you know, it came back and had an awesome game, clutch, and a lot of clutch moments there, especially in last night. And they've just got so much firepower as a team, and the Magic,
they do.
You know, coming in second in the league in defensive efficiency. You know, you're doing everything that you can, and they have played extremely physical against Boston since the first game of the season, or the first game of the series. And Boston has not liked that. They have been a bunch of crybabies. I mean, win or lose.
Crybabies who are winning.
Oh my gosh, that's fine. That's fine. Even if you are winning, it's like win or lose, you got to stop. They've got to be one of the softest teams that I have ever seen. They fall on every shot that they take. They went to like LeBron's school of acting. Like, it's just terrible to watch. Like, every shot is as if you just like shove them 3/4 down the court across the room. I mean, it's just it's so terrible for basketball to watch when they act that way.
Yeah.
You know, then they come out in the news and it's like, you know, they're so physical. It's like almost beyond basketball. And if they want an actual fight, we'll give it to them, this, that, and the other. It's like, stop. Just stop. Just man up. And I feel like that even Joe Mazzulla, their head coach, I think he kind of knows some of that because I don't know if you were watching, but I think it was game one when KCP had a foul on Jason Tatum, and that's when he hurt his wrist.
Yeah.
And had a bone bruise on his wrist. He's sitting there laying on the ground underneath the basket, and it wasn't a terrible foul whatsoever, but he's just laying there.
Right.
He won't even get up. He's laying there, and Joe Mazzulla stops the trainer
Yeah.
from going over. Trainer's next to him. He says, "Don't go over there," and yells across the court, "Get up!" Like, I think part of him knows just seeing that
Yeah.
his team is soft.
Yeah.
Like, just man up and just
Yeah.
you're winning basketball games. You're playing great to some degree. You're
Mhm.
playing a tough defensive team.
Yeah.
You went 0-3 until last night against them in the regular season, so you knew that they were going to be tough on you at home. You were
Right.
33-8 on the road, probably
Yeah.
the best record on the road coming into the series. But
Yeah.
you were then 0-3 after game 3 in Orlando, and it is what it is. Just man up and continue to play basketball.
Right.
And all this complaining was just like getting annoying. It was just
Yeah.
even a buddy at work,
But
was
yet-
an Austin fan. He was sitting there like, "Yeah, I was watching the game with my dad. I told him the same thing. Like, they're soft. They're weak. They tired us down, and
They
yeah.
they may be soft, but you know what the odds are, right? Where they're at in the odds to win the championship again.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
They're at plus 200, so
It
they're
doesn't make
they're
it
not
any
in bad
better.
shape. Yeah.
You're the defending champs, right? And
Yeah.
basketball is going to be physical, and you've got the Magic that are coming in there. There is a I forget what the foul differential was, but the Magic certainly lead by far in the foul differential. And and it's like, okay, because we're playing tough. We're going to play you tough. We have defensive rotations. We're trying to get you off of your flow,
Mhm.
ruin your rhythm, because
Yeah.
every single member of your team can shoot the basketball. We don't have that
Mhm.
luxury. So
Right.
you know what? That's where we shine is. That's our bread and butter is defense. And we're going to play you tough, and you just got to deal with it, man up. They're obviously calling fouls. We get a technical a game for a hard foul on you. So
Yeah.
it's like, and we've had one every single game so far this series. It's like you just got to man up and deal with it.
I have two questions for you. Before we move on. Number one is, what are the odds that the Magic win the championship? Do you know what those were? I have them in front of me, so I'm
The
not going to
series or
share
the championship.
the championship.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just curious if you know what long odds we're up against here.
0.01%.
It's plus 200. Wait, is that how many zeros is that? Yeah, 200,000. It's plus 200,000.
Plus 200,000.
Whereas the Celtics are plus 200. 200. And now, so that's the first question. And you got that, I guess, right? Because you said it was long odds.
Yeah.
Number two was, how do you think they fare against the Thunder?
The Magic?
No, the Celtics. We're
Oh.
assuming the Celtics close out
Yeah,
and
so
move
if
on.
the Celtics make
If
it
the
all the way,
Celtics close out,
it's-
Thunder close out.
okay.
Yeah, championship game.
They make it all. If
'Cause
both teams make it all the way,
Thunder's plus 160, so it's pretty even.
yeah, I still think that that's going to be a little bit more of a matchup for Boston because you've got a great team in Oklahoma City, and they just showed
Yeah.
that by sweeping the Grizzlies.
Yes, they did.
Um,
4-0.
And they, I feel like, are kind of the same way. They're still kind of the young, fluid, offensive style team. You know, they're not like the nitty gritty, tough, bigger guy, basketball,
They're not the Knicks of the 90s, basically, is what you're saying.
defense kind of deal.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a little bit more of the Boston matchup there.
Okay.
I still think that I feel like this is OKC's year. I really do. I think that they were
fair.
number one seed in the West last year. I'm pretty certain, and didn't make it that far.
Yeah.
Because just these travel tested teams like the Nuggets and teams like that.
Yeah.
As soon as they get into the playoffs and get deeper into the playoffs and that
Mhm.
battle tested road,
fire up.
we've won the championship a couple of years ago and so on. Same team comes out, and now they're a little bit tougher. Because they've been there, done that. So, but if they had to have the two teams back to back, I'm still going to go OKC because the odds of you repeating are so slim to none.
Right.
So I would take the better bet there.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. So changing things up a little bit, in this last month of us taking a sabbatical, we've obviously been in great conversation with one another, just kind of about praying and just about the podcast. We just hit a year and where we wanted to go from here. So we wanted to kind of change things up a little bit, change the flow. of what we do, just because we want to make sure that we are expressing first and foremost what the importance of this podcast is. We're obviously two guys that absolutely love our sports and love to talk about sports, and this will always continue to be a part of our podcast. But we want to put an emphasis right off the bat in our podcast each week of sharing something even more important to us, which is our faith. That technically would always go to like the end of our podcast, or if we could not get to it, then we move it to the next week. So there's a little bit more of a backseat to our sports segments. And we think that our sports segments are certainly important because that's the nature of our podcast. But we wanted to put more emphasis and more importance on what is important to us, which is our faith. So that's going to be our bread and butter on how we start our podcast each and every week, is that you get to kind of hear from us. I think you saw, if any of you that are listening right now saw on our social media accounts, we've been posting some shorts over the last month as well. And, I had actually somebody at work last week. I went into his office and was talking to somebody else, and he said, "Man, I just have to tell you, I listened to your video. I listened to your whole 8-minute video." He said, "Please continue to post those." He said, "I thought it was great. And I thought it was it really meant a lot because of this, that, and the other." He said, you don't know how many families, right now, of like just you sharing what you shared. He said, just shows the level of importance it is in a family with children to have two parents, a two-parent home, and to have two receptive parents, and to have how important it is for that communication from both parents and raising the children and so on. So that meant a lot to me to have that kind of view and to have that kind of response to it. And it just kind of went to the both of us to just say, you know what, this is what we need to be doing. And so we will always have our sports segment here on this, but we just wanted to make sure that we started the show each week with putting an importance on what is very, very important to us, which is our faith and our ability to help inspire you as we are inspired each and every week. As we said before, we want to be transparent with you. I was very transparent in that video. Jeremiah's been very transparent on here as well. I feel like we've done the best that we could to really remove the curtains in every which way that we can, because we want everybody to be able to relate to us, because we know that the things that we go through are not new to anybody else. No, and that there are other people in this world that are going through it as well. So we want to make sure that we are really, really, cut close to our fans. And that kind of brings us into what we're talking about right now. So what we wanted to share today is titled "Finish Strong." So this is Jeremiah and James and I were kind of praying about this, because this is directed towards men and women both. In today's world, one of the biggest, I would say, questions that we receive out there as Christians is, why does the Lord allow the good people, the bad things to happen to good people, if you will? I'm sure that you can name, and anybody listening here can name, family members, friends, pastors, whoever, just people of influence in their lives who are extremely strong individuals, strong Christians in their life, just really faithful to the Lord, who struggled with something. Yeah. Right? Struggle with getting sick, cancer, dying, a vehicle accident, whatever it is, just something bad that happened in their life, and it makes them question their faith. It makes them question the Lord. And, and that right there, it's hard for people to know at that particular point that the enemy is out for you in every which way. Always. If they're not strong in their faith, and if they're not strong in the scriptural reference of what Satan is here to do, then they just kill and destroy. Assume that the Lord is not there for them. Yeah. Right? And the fact that Satan is out there looking to destroy your life, that does not play a factor in their mindset. So that's why we have our little devotional for today entitled "Finish Strong." It's honestly not how you start something, but how you finish, just like anything else. You think of how many basketball games, even in this series, where teams are down 10, 15 points or whatever. We saw the March Madness. That's like a staple of March Madness. You could be up 10 or 15 points in March Madness at halftime, and it doesn't mean a gosh darn thing.
That was Houston, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was like every
game. That was crazy, that game.
And, but as we see in life, games are won in the final seconds, right? where
Yeah.
the legacy is built in how you finish, right? Whether a game goes into overtime, a last second shot, or whatever, the grit and the grind to finish strong is what separates winners from losers. And that's what separates your legacy from somebody else's, is
Yeah.
whether or not you have a reputation to grind it out, to really give it all, to lay it out there, and to just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. There's no perfect being in life. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And every single day is a grind to be more Christ-like.
Yeah.
Every day is a grind to accomplish the will of the Lord for our lives. And
Yeah.
every day is a grind to accomplish all that while dealing with the things that the world throws at us, right? And the things that Satan throws at us, right? Side note, I'm outside. This is where I'm at, is my back porch.
Could
You're
hear,
gonna my favorite
is that
people.
your boys? Hear the sirens. Are they
Boys
coming for
down
you?
the street. You
Your
hear
boys are
them.
coming down the street.
Yep, and they come down this street every single day, multiple times a day. So you're gonna keep.
Text your guys and tell them to turn off sirens. You're trying to record a video.
doubt. No, well, this is Seminole County right here, so they.
That's
they
Seminole
don't-
County. Okay.
They don't know. But whether you're facing a tough season in sports, life, whatever it is, God calls you to stay committed. Trust His plan and finish strong. Kind of the bedrock text for this particular one is out of 2 Timothy. So obviously we know the story of Paul, right? Paul, which was Saul, rough start to life, but the Lord pulled him out of it, renamed him Saul, gave him a new name and a new view of life. And you can go and look in scripture and follow Paul's life from one place to another. And I mean, he is a great representative of somebody that was persecuted time and time again.
Right.
And still, at the end of the day, fought the good fight of sharing the gospel of Christ.
Right.
So, I mean, from being shipwrecked, beaten, in prison, you name
everything. Beheaded.
everything. At the end of the day, he still walked out of there and continued to give his life to the Lord. So one of that particular scripture that I want to read is 2 Timothy 4:7, but I'm actually going to read a little bit more of that, not just that particular one.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with verse 7, and it says, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day.
Yeah.
And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing.
All of us. I love
I
it.
have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." That's a mindset that I hope that on my deathbed and my fighting for air, my last gasp of air, that I can sit there and say that I fought the good fight, that I finished the race, and I've kept the faith. I want to know that at the end of my life, that although not perfect, I've done everything that I could to accomplish the will of the Lord for my life, knowing full well that that's why we're here in the first place.
Right.
And it's always going to be tough. And the challenge for everybody today, before I throw it over to you, is the challenge for today for this particular devotion, this particular title is, when you feel tired or discouraged today, whisper this prayer: God, give me strength to finish strong. Super simple, right?
Yeah.
There's
like
so many
that.
scriptures throughout the Bible that talk about a peace, a joy that can only come from the Lord. We tend to try to find our peace and our joy from a lot of other things in life. But the truth is that there's only one type of joy, one type of peace that we can find that is truly going to fulfill the peace and joy that we need in life. And it's only going to come from our Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
So again, before I pass that over, I want to get before I kind of share some of my own personal stories about that.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw it to you for you to share some as well.
Yeah. So I knew we were going to be talking about this a little bit, and I pulled up a scripture that is important to me that I wanted to share as well. Kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, JB. And it's 1 Corinthians 9:24. And it says, "Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives a prize? It's ran in such a way that you may obtain it." This verse is used as an analogy of a race to encourage believers to pursue their faith with purpose and dedication, striving to achieve the ultimate prize, which is, like you said, eternal life. The Apostle Paul uses the image of the race in your scripture and in this one to illustrate the Christian life, just as runners compete for a prize. Believers are called to strive for a reward in heaven, which is greater than any earthly prize. Um, the reason to run actually is the verse emphasizes the need to run with diligence and determination, JB. It's not enough to simply participate. One must strive to win the prize by maintaining faith and perseverance and focusing on their goal. Everyone has a goal and what they're supposed to be doing here, a purpose. The prize in the Christian race is eternal life and a reward in heaven. And this motivates the believers to persevere through challenges and difficulties, knowing that the reward is worth it. And then Paul also emphasizes the importance of self-discipline in this context. Just as athletes train vigorously to win, like you were talking about, so too should believers discipline their lives to be faithful followers of Christ. And lastly, I'll say that while the image is drawn from athletics, the principles here apply to all areas of life. Believers are encouraged to approach all their endeavors with diligence and a desire to achieve the best that they can. So I'll throw it back over to you. I just thought I would share that.
No, that's great. And and you said something really good there, that kind of made me think of a scripture out of Revelation. You talk about participation, right? Like no participation trophies, right? And to me, if you're just doing what you can to participate, I consider that being a lukewarm Christian.
Yeah,
Right?
we know how
Lukewarm
Jesus
in your
feels
faith,
about them.
right?
Right.
And we obviously know, if you don't know, look up the scriptures of Revelation. I don't know what it is, which one it is exactly, but it talks about the gnawing and gnashing of teeth. And I would rather you be hot than lukewarm or cold, or something to that effect. But nevertheless, the point being that you can't just be a lukewarm Christian, meaning essentially riding the fence, just participating. Like it's got to be, the Lord requires all or nothing from you. Like when you give your life over to the Lord, that's what it is. And again, we're not perfect at it. Like I feel like that's something that kind of sets people apart from wanting to give their lives to the Lord, is because they feel like that it's so much work after you do that you don't have an ability to live your own life if that's your mindset behind it. But the truth is that's not true at all. Like I still to this day am living a life of Christ. That's how I make the decisions in life or whatever. But when you actually have the heart behind it and you actually are giving your life to the Lord, accepting him as your Lord and Savior, and allowing him to be the head of your life, then that mindset of, oh, it's difficult to live that kind of life and it prohibits me from doing the things that I want to do, all that changes. Your mindset changes, your attitude changes towards it, and none of that becomes an issue. So it's only an issue for you until you have the heart to make that choice and that decision.
I found it real fast in Revelations. It's Revelations 3:15-16. It says, I know your deeds, that you are neither hot or cold. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. That is one version. So lukewarm Christians are not favored at all by Jesus. Yeah.
And so that's just what I thought of when you're talking about participation, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of bringing that back to what our main thought process is here is, again, finishing strong. It's looking at every situation that you have in life that is rough, whether it be a financial issue, a marriage issue, a children issue, whatever it is that you're going through in life. It's hard for people in that particular moment to sit there and think, you know what? The Lord is here for me. Lord, I give my all to you. I lay this down to you. I'm going to continue to find joy, as your scripture tells me to do, in trials and in persecution. It's really hard to have that mindset. It's always easier said than done. A couple of the things that I wrote down here, and it's very, very quick, but so my father passed away when I was 18. So from the time that I was 13 until the time that I was 18, he had terminal brain cancer. So obviously our relationship changed because we had a really, really close relationship up until the time that he had cancer. From that particular point, obviously looking back now, I have obviously a more mature outlook as to what he was kind of going through. So, you're talking about a guy that was, in his late 30s, early 40s, whose life completely changed, who has a family of 5 and has been one of the sole breadwinners. As my mother, she homeschooled us and so on, and then he worked 2 or 3 jobs. And
Right.
now all of a sudden that's got to stop. And now your life cannot go on to being normal again.
Yeah.
And you are being told that you can't do this, you can't do that, and so on. So that really brought out a bad side of him, an anger, a resentment, a bitterness out of him, that just towards the fact of his sickness in general, maybe towards the Lord. I don't know. I was younger at that time, but nevertheless, but then it just went over the family. It just
Yeah.
bled and vomited over the family, to the point that causing a lot of issues, especially between he and I. And our relationship was never really the same.
Yeah.
And eventually he passed away when I was 18. But it was more or less the obstacle to get over was not only dealing with the fact of not having a father by the time I was 18, but was then now I am like the man of the house, right?
Yeah.
With me and my two sisters and my mom, all
Mhm.
trying to gather how to move forward from here, right?
Yeah.
Um, and 2 weeks prior to my father passing away, my grandmother had passed away, who was like a second mom to us.
Yeah.
So actually, the day of her funeral, my father passed away.
Yeah.
So we went to the funeral. We went to the reception. From the reception, we went up to the hospital. Doors to
Yeah.
the hospital open, or the elevator to his floor opens, and there's my uncle standing there just crying with the phone in his hand. And at that particular moment, I had known what happened. So it
Yeah.
was just the ability to just sit there and say, look, he was like a deacon in the church.
Yeah.
It's like here we are trying to have a great mindset on life, right? And it's like, how in that moment can you find the strength to say, you know what, Lord, you've got this,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm going to find joy in you. You've got this. And we're going to be able
Right.
to move past this and move forward. We're going to trust in you. We're going to take each day at a time. Moving forward. No, that's not a, maybe for some, but I guarantee you a
Yeah.
majority, high percentage of people don't end up having that mindset at that particular point. It's way after that, as you're going through the grind of life and
Yeah.
pushing forward, that
Yeah.
you see, you know what, Lord, I see it now, but I didn't in the moment.
Yeah.
And it goes for every other
Where
thing
you were
in
young.
life. Starting the fire department, didn't think it was rough, didn't think it was from him. Thought I heard from him about 6 months in, stuck it out. Here I am 18 years later, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
Not having children. That was one of the only points in life that I think, and watching just the depressive state that my wife was in, just the tragic state that my wife was in as a mom looking to nurture children. Being told that you're never going to have your own children, right? But for me, the difference was in going through that time is that it was a never failing moment for me. We got back in the car one day after being told that we couldn't have kids, and she's like, "You know that you can grieve this, right?" And I was like, "No. What's the next door? What's the next step? Which one are we going to go through?" That's
Right.
always been my mentality for life, is that
Yeah.
until I have literally exhausted any idea and any door possible,
Mhm.
I'm going to walk through it, and I'm going to try
Yeah.
to go through it. But it doesn't mean that I'm perfect at it. There was a point during that time where I looked at my family and they looked at me and they said, "I didn't think you would ever say that," just knowing how strong I am in my faith. And I said,
Right.
I know that the Lord exists, and I know that he's been there for me in my life, but there's zero way that he is with us in this situation. I did. I said, there's no way that he's with us here in this situation, because there's no reason on earth that he would continue to allow us to go through what we're going through right now. And again, it was a fleshly response to
Yeah.
seeing my wife struggle. Right. I mean, it was
Yeah.
bad enough
Yeah.
as it is. You're telling me that I can't have my own kids, but that's not her
Right.
fault. She can go have kids. You're telling me I can't have my own kids, so in turn she can't have kids.
Yeah.
So watching her just be devastated time and time again, I was like, there's zero way. Like, this is cruel and unusual punishment.
What that was back then. How do you feel now? I'm curious, because I'm sure our listeners would be
Well,
like,
so
so how do you
obviously,
see that differently, right? That's how
yeah,
you saw. That's the flesh. I agree. That would be the fleshly response. I would have the same one. It would.
yeah.
Yours is probably mild compared to what I would do, but I'm just curious. I'd be throwing things. I'd be curious to know, how do you see that now as a more seasoned Christian, right?
Well,
Was God in that?
of
What
course,
was that
100%,
takeaway?
because
So
every
he was
plan has his own. Every
right,
plan may not be yours, right? And so he
right,
might have a plan for everything. So here we are, and again, jumping through every door possible. So we
yeah,
paid for surgeries. Then from there, we went and did IVF. and then
Yeah.
from IVF, or we went to all this testing and so on and so forth. And then eventually, again, my wife's oldest sister told us about embryo adoption. So then we jumped through that hoop. And then from there, we were, again, first transfer of embryo adoption, did not take. And then yet, Becca's friend at the time, she did it at the same time and got pregnant with twins. And
Wow.
we didn't get pregnant at all. So then just
Yeah.
watching my wife as she hears that she's pregnant with twins, like we had to walk out of church. She just like hit the floor of the car, of the ground next to the car, and
Yeah.
is just devastated. And it's like, again, we get done with this and we go back to the infertility doctor, and he says, look, there's no easy way to say this, but if you want this to happen, you have just got to get back on the horse and do it.
Yeah.
And again, just that drive was just so strong for us. And we had people kind of like Job, right? Job's friends weren't the greatest at encouraging him. It was
Yeah.
kind of the same. We had people telling us that we were rushing it, telling us that maybe we weren't listening to the Lord, and that it wasn't the Lord's plans for us to have kids, and
Yeah.
that we were trying to force something that wasn't there. And it was just a lot of, like, not necessarily negativity, but just, it was like they just wanted to see the suffering stop, right? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that they love you. They just don't
Right.
want to see you struggle anymore.
Yeah.
And so that was really kind of like the biggest hurdle, I would say, in that point. But then obviously it happens, right? We had 2 transfers later, and here we are with a beautiful 7-pound baby girl.
Yeah.
Again,
And man, is she a pistol?
and it didn't make it easy. Again,
Right.
she's born, and they immediately call a code as soon as she's born. She's gray, she's not breathing, and it was like the worst 30 seconds of our life then at that
Right.
particular point, where my
Yeah.
wife's looking at me, and she's like, what's going on? And of course I'm looking over there at the table, and I can hear what they're saying. I can hear what they call, but she doesn't know the lingo, so she's not paying attention, right?
Right.
And so I see them, working on my daughter, who's not breathing, who's not doing well. And finally a nurse comes over and holds my wife's hands. And now she's
Yeah.
flipping out. She's like, Jared, what is going on? Why do I not hear her crying? This, not even
Yeah.
flipping out. So now, again, it was very short. It was only like 20, 30 seconds. It wasn't a long time.
But that's an eternity for a
But that's
parent.
an eternity when you're
That
just
is an
standing there
eternity.
and you're staring at
Yeah.
her, and you're like, freaking cry already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Smack her or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
100%.
again, my life, I just have one situation after the next, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm almost tearing up just going back to
That's
that.
all right.
Just going back to that story.
Well, I don't regret bringing this up because
she's 7 years old now, right? And
yeah,
she's a pistol with her.
She's a pistol.
She's Miss Independent. She's 7 going
She
on
sure
15.
is. Yeah.
But you know what? Every day, every moment that I can get, I go and give her a hug. And when I do, I sit there and say, you know what? You made me a daddy.
Yeah.
You're the one that made me a daddy.
She did,
and
yeah.
And it's one situation after the next of just dealing with things. And then you're like, for me, the grind just doesn't stop. The grind to get to my destination just doesn't stop. One guy said one day, a pastor, he said, dude, you're like a bulldog. You can't let go. Like, you got to keep fighting and pushing forward. And that's just been me. That's who I am.
That's true. That's who you are.
I don't give up. I don't look at one situation. There's constant times where we'll sit there and all of a sudden we'll have one end result that doesn't go our way. And my wife's just like, okay, it is what it is. And I'm like, no, like, we've got more open doors for us to go through.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, until we have exhausted all options, I'm not going to quit until this happens.
Yeah.
And again, if it's not for the Lord just impressing that spirit upon me, I would just be like anybody else. I'd be willing to give up.
So these scriptures hit home for you in a great way.
Yeah. Because, I again, it's important for me, like I said, on my deathbed to sit there and say the same thing that Paul said, that I have fought the good fight, I finished the race, and I kept the faith. Because now, especially with having 2 children, you want them to grow in the faith. You want them to realize, and again, I look at things a little bit different, right? I'm a little bit tougher, right? My wife is the more nurturing one. I'm a little bit tougher. So for me, like when I'm raising my son, some people might think that I might be a little bit too tough on him, right? But for me, the way that I look at it is he's 5 years old, but even at 5 years old, the world doesn't care. The world doesn't care about your feelings. The world doesn't care about what good or bad happens to you or whatever. And you have to keep your trust in the Lord. And that is just the biggest thing in life, is that you have to understand who you are as an individual. You have to understand what his promises are for your life, and you have to understand what his commands are for your life. And when he's got people that he puts in your life, and in scripture, like the Pauls that we read about, those same verses and scriptures apply to us. Like, we have to find the grind of life. We have to be able to push forward. We have to be able to trust in the Lord. And when we're tired and discouraged, we have to pray to him. We have to get before him, and we have to just allow him to guide our path, and to just say, I trust you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is I trust you. Because if we can't sit there and say, I trust you, and we just try to do these things on our own, we're never going to succeed.
That's true.
It's just never going to happen.
No.
So anyways, I'm sure that you have some of the same things. So I want to pass it back over to you. I'd love to hear some more insight from you.
No, I'm gonna stop in point. I think I do want to share that you're a Proverbs 13:24 guy, and I am as well. Which NIV is, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline. That's where we get the spare the rod, spoil the child phrase. Yeah, we're both Proverbs 13:24 guys for sure. Yeah,
because I mean, and again, just kind of a last bit to that. Going through life, it's like not everybody goes through a tough life, right? And there are people that have gone through much tougher situations than myself. But, when I look back at all the things that we went through in life, about the time that I can remember, which is about the time that my dad had cancer, I'm talking about being poor, right? The church coming over with, like Aldi type of deals, bringing canned goods over to us and providing food for us. They put money together so that way we could get a vehicle, so that way we could drive my dad back and forth to appointments. I'm talking about the bottom of the barrel, almost being evicted from our home, filing for bankruptcy, just the bottom as could be, and you're just a teenager, right? And, just another conversation for another day, just watching the way that my mom handled everything to allowing us to be who we are today. All three of us following the Lord and living great lives. It just goes to show that, it's the Lord always says he's going to be with us in the storms, but the mindset that people have is they think that he's going to keep us out of storms. And that's not true. It's not true.
Man, I wish that was the case.
I wish that was the case.
Oh my gosh. That would be so amazing.
This stuff. Everybody has a choice, nowadays. And, and I try to instill that upon my kids. Everybody has a choice in life. When you're driving a car, somebody has a choice to make a wrong decision there. It doesn't necessarily mean that the Lord's always going to, keep that person from making a wrong choice of hitting your vehicle, right? Because he's given us the freedom of choice. And there's 1.5 million things that I'm sure he has protected us from in life, that for a reason, because, we have a divine purpose for our life in what it is. But the world is a mean and nasty place, as we know. And, I want my children to realize that even through that, you can come out on top. That you can separate yourself from that and just be in the world, but not of the world, as scripture tells us. So
it's true.
That was good, man. The last thing I want to add to that is a prayer, right? So a prayer that to all of our listeners that are listening to this, that you can say over yourself and over anybody else who may be going through a hard time and the struggle is real. It says, Jesus, thank you for being with me in every part of the race. Help me to stay faithful, stay focused, and finish strong with you. Amen. I would recommend praying that over yourself every day. For those that are listening, pray that over 100%. Yourself every single day. Believe and trust in him. Have that faith. Trust in him. Say, Lord, I trust you. I'm going to walk each day trusting you, having faith in you, and I'm going to find that joy in my life because I know you know my name. Yeah. You know my name. And if the Lord of heaven and earth knows my name, then I must be important for a reason, right?
True.
And so that's a prayer that I would recommend to all of our listeners to pray for every single day.
I love it.
That's what I got, man. You got anything else to add to that?
No, I think that's a good stopping point because I feel like if we keep going, that'll be the entire show.
The whole show.
We could do this for hours more than likely.
For sure.
Yeah, I start unpacking stuff, then you're crying, then I'm crying, then everyone's crying.
Everyone's crying. Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. As we said, we are two guys that obviously love the Lord, but we love sports as well. And there is so much going on right now. We talked a little bit about the Magic going forward, but we just had a very interesting, good and interesting 2025 NFL Draft.
Did.
And that is the talk of the town. So here we are Tuesday,
Yeah.
a couple days after the end of it. And
Yep.
we are all 7 rounds finished, good to go. We have a lot to share. I'll let you open up first with your Chiefs.
I think first we share the meme of the week. I think this is where we pull up our memes and mine. And so I'll have him pull up that video here real fast. Let's do that first, and then we'll unpack how the Chiefs and the Bucs did and the 2025 draft.
So obviously, for context for this one, this is Jeremiah's that he's showing first. Obviously, if you did watch any part of the draft whatsoever, you'll
understand the storyline.
Quarterback Shedeur Sanders, number 2 overall quarterback coming out, supposedly anyways, fell drastically in the draft to the 5th round.
To the 5th round.
We'll hit that conversation in a minute, but nevertheless, here is the meme of the week for Jeremiah.
And it says Shedeur Sanders trying to get drafted. For those who can't see the video, he's trying to touch people, and everybody's running away from him.
Yeah, you got to check these out. If you're not watching us, or if you're just listening to it,
oh man,
try to tune into YouTube.
Yeah,
Chop Talk Podcast,
you got to see these
and check us out because you'll like that particular meme.
There was another one, huh?
There
was another one that Adam Schefter had posted. I don't know if he did or didn't, but
no.
It says Deion Sanders, and this is after day 1, has reportedly been calling NFL teams with a special draft day BOGO deal. It says he's telling teams, draft Shedeur in the 2nd round. This is after the 1st round. He didn't go, right? And I'll throw in Shiloh for free. He's not great, but he's packed full of spare parts, ligaments, kidneys, whatever Shedeur may need down the line.
And I find that funny now. And the Bucs signed him undrafted, Shiloh. So I'm like, all right, we'll see how that goes.
Oh man!
At the end of the day, Shiloh got the better end of the deal. So that's what's funny. Just waiting to be undrafted.
I guess they won't be using him as spare parts afterwards.
No doubt.
After all.
And so this isn't about Shedeur, but I found this one pretty funny here.
What do you got? I don't know if I've seen this. Oh.
I'm gonna go off script here real quick, Roger, but I just got off the phone with the president,
Who is that?
Donald Trump.
Clay Matthews.
He asked me to pass
that is Clay Matthews, yeah.
Clay Matthews. All 32 NFL franchises. So let me tell you what it reads here, all right?
Here we go.
It says, my fellow Americans, the Bears still suck!
Gotta love some Clay Matthews.
Oh man, it's funny because it's true. They still do suck.
Well, and if you don't know, the draft was in Green Bay.
It was in Green Bay, yeah.
It was right outside Lambeau. So
you either got to pick on the Vikings or the Bears if you're holding in Green Bay.
Somebody was getting picked on.
Absolutely. That's funny.
We have our draft grades as a Chiefs fan, as
we
a
do.
Bucs fan. We have our draft grades.
And you have that. Let's pull that up real fast. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I can kind of talk through it while you have it pulled up.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
Let me know when you got that.
All right, and let me see which one is which. I don't know which one. Oh, yeah, this one's the Chiefs.
Before you got to go ahead. All right, so this is the CBS grade. It was a B+. There was a lot of A's and A- and some B's for the most part. I think the Chiefs did a really good job overall. We obviously, if anybody watched the Super Bowl last year, we got a bit of a hole at offensive tackle. Pretty much our whole offensive line was a sieve during the Super Bowl versus the Eagles. But we picked up in the 1st round Josh Simmons, which everyone either gave an A or an A+ to. He had blown out his patella. But the Chiefs doctors had taken a look, and they don't think it's going to be a concern, so they did grab him. Had he not hurt himself there in the last season, he played for Ohio State, won a national championship. He probably would have been the first offensive tackle off the board. So I think he was, I don't know if you disagree or agree, but I think he's probably one of the best picks that they could have grabbed. We have some other guys. We picked up Jalen Moore in the free agency. He's a signed veteran. So we've got a little bit of competition going at offensive tackle, which is good. Let's see who else we got. Round 2. Omar Norman Lott, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee. He went in spot number 63. Obviously, the goal is to replenish the middle of their defensive line. Chris Jones isn't getting any younger, as we know. Tershawn Wharton and Derek Nady, they departed through free agency, as most of Chiefs Kingdom knows. So
Really?
a lot of us
That guy left?
say that.
Derek Nady left?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So Norman Lott's going to get playing time right away. They're going to put him in rotation. They really will. We picked up Mike Pennell and Jerry Tillery. They're veterans for the interior of the defensive line. So he's definitely going to be a rotational player for sure. My guess is they'll probably play Norman Lott on pass plays. Number 3, round 3, number 66, we picked up Ashton Gelati, a defensive end edge out of Louisville. We've got edge players, but again, he brings some fresh legs, and he'll give some of those guys some breaks. We've got George Karlaftis on the edge, 8 sacks in 2024. But really, he was kind of the only guy on the defensive end who was productive as a pass rusher. And I think they brought Gelati in to help there. We still have Mike Dana. We have King Felix out of K-State. And then we have Charles Omenahu. But those 3 guys, JB, only had 7 sacks between them for all of last season. So other than Karlaftis, we definitely needed a little bit of a lift on the edge. And I do think Gelati will help us there. Round 3, pick number 85, Noah Williams, cornerback out of Cal. Obviously we have Trent McDuffie at corner, and we signed in the offseason Christian Fulton. And so he obviously will be competing for that starting position. They can still obviously use Noah Williams for a depth, because Spags is very good at rotating folks out. And then Jalen Watson's still in play there too. They like Noah Williams potentially for special teams as well. So just keep that in mind. Let's see here. Round 4, number 133, Jalen Royals, a wide receiver out of Utah State. The Chiefs already have Xavier Worthy. We picked him up in the draft last season. He's been a favorite target of Mahomes all of last year. Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. So we've got a pretty good wide receiver room. I watched the tape on Jalen Royals, and I was extremely impressed. This guy goes after the ball, and his RAC numbers are ridiculous. He likes to get 15, 20, 30 yards, a touchdown if he can after the play. So that's very important. And they also see him as returning kicks as well. He's got a lot of speed. So the goal here is to bring in Royals and kind of pull the field vertically for Mahomes, because Mahomes has said many times he likes the flat passes, but he wants to go long. He wants to test his arm. Round 5, number 156, Jeffrey Bassa. He was the defensive captain for the Oregon Ducks for 2 seasons. So we have a veteran linebacker group in Nick Bolton. We've got Drew Tranquil and then Leo Chenal. But I do think that they'll bring Bassa in. He can help on special teams. And I saw his tape as well, and he is a monster. So if anything, he will give those guys some fresh, some time out, you know what I mean, on snap counts. Sure. And then round 7, we gave up a couple trades. We wanted a running back to kind of pull everything together. Number 228, we picked up Rashard Smith out of SMU. We needed more kind of speed in the backfield, along with Kareem Hunt and Pacheco, who's a bruiser. So Rashard Smith adds kind of a different dimension as well, more of a flat back. And that, my friend, is how we did. Now, in terms of grading the draft, obviously, NFL put it at an A-. Let's see. CBS had it at B+, which you just put up a second ago. Let's see. PFF has it as a B-, which I thought didn't make any sense. Fox Sports gave us an A. NBC Sports gave us a B+ as a team. And then, let's see. This is another one. They gave us an A-. Pro Football Network gave the Chiefs an A-. So I would say all in all, pretty good. And I was watching the Bucs as well. I'd like to hear a little bit about how they did.
Yeah, so I'll bring up the Bucs.
Yeah, bring that up.
And was pretty excited about theirs.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's the Chiefs.
Let's see it. No, that's the Bucs.
Oh, look at
You guys,
you're-
you guys. I pulled up all your grades across the board, all the different companies and
yeah.
who do the do the recordings, and then you guys got A's and B's all across the board.
Yeah, I was pretty excited. So, obviously, looking at our wide receiver depth, we have, a lot of guys. The question is always, are they going to be able to stay healthy, right? So you've got, Sterling Shepard, Mike Evans, Trey Palmer, Ryan Miller, those four in particular. Plus you've got, who else do you have there? I was trying to think of somebody else that you have there. I think I was probably thinking of like Trey Palmer.
Godwin.
Yeah, but you're hoping Godwin comes back healthy, right? From that injury. But in the meantime, you've got those particular four in general. McMillan, Jalen McMillan. McMillan had an awesome season last year. So certainly open with that. Cade Otton with Mike Evans. When Mike Evans was out for a while, Cade Otton came in and just balled out. So we've got a lot of great weapons on offense. But it's, can guys stay healthy? So with Chris Godwin out, you don't know if he's going to be able to come back, how healthy he's going to be coming back. Mike Evans missed a ton of time last year, came back and balled out. Can he stay healthy?
Right.
So then at that point, you got to make sure you have some help. So first overall pick for us at pick 19 was Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, wide receiver from Ohio State, who got a B- grade. He was the third ranked wide receiver, 6'1", 202 out of the combine. 2021, he was an honorable mention, All-10, Big Ten Conference kick returner. So they used him a lot on special teams. So he started 2022. He was a finalist for the Paul Hornung Award for most versatile player, starting all 13 games. 2023, third team All Big Ten, played in 10 games with 9 starts. Actually at receiving. He did miss 3 games that year with an ankle injury. And then 2024, he was third team All Big Ten. He was a team captain, led the team with 81 receptions, 1,011 yards, 12.5 per catch, 10 touchdowns, set a school record with 205 career receptions over those 4 seasons. Played in all 16 games of 15 starts for the national champions. So an impressive resume there, and certainly the depth that we needed. So great pickup. I've got some guys that, who was it that I was talking to? He was maybe Steelers or Pats. One or the other, and they were upset that he didn't end up falling to them because that's who they wanted. And I was,
we wanted him.
Yeah,
I mean, he was on our list too, but there's no way he was dropping to us.
No, not that far. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that. And then I just did the first.
It's a good pickup.
Second round, Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame.
Yeah,
everybody was, and the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is because obviously he got a grade A, but. I don't know. Did you end up watching? A lot of viral videos went out on this guy. Did you happen to watch the phone call on this guy?
No, I don't think so.
Todd Bowles, making the phone call that he was going to be drafted. This guy, Benjamin Morrison, is bawling.
Oh, really?
Cannot even talk. Bawling. Like, I mean, just waterworks.
Yeah.
And just so happy, so excited to come to the Bucs to be drafted. Todd Bowles is trying to talk to him, and he's just bawling it out, man. Just, you could see the emotion greatly of just, I would imagine excited for a couple different reasons. Number one, to be drafted. Number two, to go to such a good team as well.
Yeah, it's a good, it's a good, it helps when you go to a team that could win, right?
Yeah, you could end up, it could be worse. You go to the Browns.
I know a Sanders that went to the Browns.
Yeah. So Benjamin Morrison, freshman All-American, tied for third in the FBS with 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
Played in all 13 games with 9 starts, led the team. He played in 12 games, 11 starts, 31 tackles, 3.5 tackles after loss, or 4 loss and 3 interceptions. In 2024, started the first 6 games, missed the final 10 games with a hip injury, and he was a team captain. So obviously, you hope he comes back in, healthy, and he's able to be good to go there. That's really where we had some issues at, was at our edge and our corner. And that's what we got. So
Good Lord, you got 2 of each.
Yeah, so we went wide receiver first, then we went corner, edge. And then Tez Johnson, wide receiver, who got a B+ grade out of Oregon and round 7, who didn't do bad as well, so certainly could be somebody well. But that's really where we needed to shore up some areas, is at our corners and our edges. So you hope that between obviously rounds 3 and 5, but at least Benjamin Morrison at corner can help out some of these guys, that are back there. So that's kind of where we just kind of struggled with was our corners getting beat a lot, and then just edge pressure, was certainly a thing as well.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
You guys really shored that up. You got a K-State guy in there too.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly. So watch. You know what? You'll be a fan. You'll be a fan as soon as you see
I
the ball
mean,
out.
listen, if you get me a Bucs jersey, I may be a fan for a couple days.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that was the good thing about it. I mean, obviously at pick 19, you're down the list. You're like, who's gonna fall? Who's not gonna fall? But anyway, so great draft for the Bucs. I'd say so. Trust Jason Light, man. A great general manager, knows what he's doing. Has been a proven great general manager, especially during the draft, making great draft picks. So have zero concerns about him and drafting whatsoever. So, anyways, with the short time that we have left here, we're doing pretty well here on time. Let's talk about the highlights of the draft, the talking points of the draft. Obviously, Cam Ward.
Real fast.
Go ahead.
Hold on, real fast before we do that. I need to. I want to share a couple of the names that came on the UDFA signings with the Chiefs.
Sure.
So I got to give each just a shout out.
Oh yeah,
real fast. I'm going to go through these guys, and one of them you're going to know out of Florida State. No one's heard of Florida State but you. But Magdalena, wide receiver out of Fresno State, just giving a shout out. Welcome to Chiefs Kingdom to all these guys. Brandon George, a linebacker out of Pittsburgh. We picked him up on the UDFA signings. Kevin Knowles, the second quarterback out of Florida State, the Seminoles. He is now a Kansas City Chief, so welcome, Kevin. Keziah Izzard, a defensive tackle out of Penn State, picked him up. Dalton Cooper, offensive line, Oklahoma State. Will Brooks, safety, Tennessee. Welcome. Dante Wright, wide receiver, Temple. Melvin Smith Jr., defensive back out of Southern Arkansas. Elijah Badger, wide receiver out of Florida. Go Gators. Elijah Young, running back out of Missouri. Issa Pohl, offensive. Huh?
I'm going to mute you.
No, you won't. Issa Pohl, offensive line, Washington State. Jacob Covington, cornerback, Southern Cal. Welcome. Jake Bringing Stool, tight end out of Clemson. Eddie Kizpakli, punter out of.
See, I can mute you. Exactly. Try me again. See what happens.
Oh, come on. Well, then I'll say it again. Go Gators. Elijah Badger, wide receiver. Welcome to the Chiefs. Trey Watson, tight end, Texas A&M. And before I get muted, Quaylon Jones, running back, Stephen F. Austin. So congratulations to all you guys for being on our practice squad, basically. But listen, there's some talent there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do.
Right on.
I digress.
So for the Bucs, I haven't taken a look at the undrafted list yet, but the only one that I do know of is Shedeur Sanders.
I thought we were using him for spare parts.
Shedeur Sanders is coming undrafted to Tampa. We'll see what he can do.
Oh my goodness gracious! Goodness gracious!
So Cam Ward, Miami quarterback, going first overall. To the Tennessee Titans. Think that was a great pick for them.
I agree.
He did awesome. Not obviously a fan of how things progress in college football. Sat out the second half of the bowl game and all this kind of stuff, so he didn't get injured, so on and so forth. Not that I'm a fan of any of that by any means whatsoever, but moving forward, he's not in college anymore. He's in the pros, and his stats speak for themselves. But obviously, excuse me, the talk of the town was Shedeur Sanders. So with the next couple of minutes that we have left, the question that I have for you is obviously Shedeur Sanders dropped into the 5th round, picked up by none other than the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns,
and they passed on him early on.
Had already went and picked up Dylan Gabriel, quarterback out of Oregon.
Out of Oregon, yeah.
Now, Dylan Gabriel reminds me of like a Bo Nix, only in terms of tenure, right? Like he spent 1.5 million years in college football, so he doesn't come out like overly young compared to the other college athletes, but he comes in with a lot more experience, a lot of years into play.
Sure. Yeah, and he's got kids in high school at this point.
No doubt. So the question is always like, first of all, you can't question anymore what in the world the Browns are thinking because you ask that every year. And so it's not that much. That's not really surprising.
There's a reason they've never won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not that surprising anymore. But now you have but here's my mindset. And I joke with, I've got 2 guys at the station that are Cleveland fans all the way around, right? Every team in Cleveland. So certainly big Browns fans, and they were talking about it. I'm like, look, if one stinks, you got the other that might be good. Like, I mean, the odds of the both of them stinking are not necessarily all for you. So now you have a quarterback room of 5. So now they have 5 quarterbacks in their quarterback room right now. Joe Flacco.
Yep.
Who is it? Pickett? Kenny Pickett?
Kenny Pickett. Is it Kenny Pickett? No, I don't think so.
Who's in their draft room? Who's in their?
Let's see. It's Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. You were right, Kenny Pickett.
So
but Deshaun Watson's there too.
He's not going to play another down for Cleveland. Like even these other 2 guys tell me, he's never going to play another down for Cleveland. Even the general manager has already come out and admitted that they swung and missed on this whole Deshaun Watson.
That was nuts. That whole thing.
He said, now obviously these 2, they know a lot more of the inside on Cleveland. So they said that it wasn't even really them. It was more so the owners that wanted to make that trade. So that's why he was fine with coming out and just saying, hey, we swung and missed, because it wasn't on him really in his mindset. So they've got 5 quarterbacks there. I think from what they're hearing, Kenny Pickett's going to be getting the start with Deshaun Watson not even playing right now. So I don't see that. I don't see how if you went and you picked up Joe Flacco, how Joe Flacco doesn't get the start, for right now, over Kenny Pickett. But, I guess we'll see. But now you've got 2 more. You got 2 more that you can add to it to just kind of say, okay, where do we go from here? Right?
Somebody's going to be cut. Somebody's going to be traded.
Yep.
I have a feeling there's some trade bait. You got Dylan Gabriel. He reminds me of the Bo Nix, like you said. Same for me. I don't know, man. I think one of these guys is trade bait, or at least one, if not multiples.
So answer me this.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts on why Shedeur Sanders dropped to the 5th round. 2nd rated. He was like the 6th or 7th QB to go overall in the draft by that point that he was drafted.
Yeah.
And other quarterbacks, not nearly as good as him, per se, were drafted before him. 2nd rated by everybody, 1st or 2nd, but most of them still had him 2nd behind Cam Ward coming into the draft. Why do you think he dropped so far?
I'm going to read something to you, and then this will explain my answer. Is that fair?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. First, I'm going to show you this meme because I found so many memes that I loved. Can you see this?
Oh, the one. See, I saw one that was like that, but had Burger King.
It says, with the 1,000th overall pick, McDonald's selects quarterback Shedeur Sanders.
That's awesome.
Just appeared. Anyway, the point I was going to make is I want to read this, right? And you tell me, I'm going to read this, and you tell me if this is true or not.
Okay.
Okay. The 22-year-old Signal Callers draft stock has reportedly plummeted this past week after multiple NFL insiders revealed he spent his team interviews aggressively insisting on playing Settlers of Catan. Are you familiar with the board game Catan?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about Shedeur Sanders in this, right? With NFL teams instead of answering questions about his football career. Sources close to the combine say Sanders arrived at each NFL team meeting with a well-worn Settlers game box, a bag of custom gold-plated resource cards, and an unshakable belief that bartering brick for ore is the purest test of leadership. They said, "You want to see how I handle pressure?" Sanders allegedly told a stunned New York Giants scout, "Watch me construct a network of roads, settlements, and cities with sheer brick and wood dominance, while you're hoarding ore and settling for development cards like a coward." Reports indicate Sanders was arrogant and inflexible during meetings, showing up in a backwards hat and refusing to discuss football strategy. Instead, he pulled out a Settler of Catan box, laid out the board, and informed executives they could all play because I got the expansion pack. And you can pick any color except red because that's Shedeur's color, and this is my game. The arrogance was staggering, said one anonymous scout. We asked what kind of teammate he was, and he responded by trying to negotiate, a 2-for-1 sheep for wheat deal while accusing our assistant GM of tanking the economy and holding the board back. Some analysts see this as a power move, a calculated flex against the league's corporate buttoned-up culture. He asserted dominance, one nervous scout admitted, shuffling a stack of 12 resource cards, hoping a 7 wasn't rolled. He's showing us he's not afraid to backstab allies mid-game if it means securing those last 2 victory points. But I'm still not sure how this translates to reading a cover 2 defense. One AFC GM, visibly exasperated, vented his frustrations. He said, "Look, I get it. He's a gamer. Well, when I asked about his footwork under pressure, he just slid me a sheep and said, "Let's discuss how I can expand your settlements." I don't even know what that means. The GM said. Sanders draft stock. It is a long joke, but it's getting to my. I have a point at the end of this. I promise. Sanders' draft stock, once considered a lock for the top 5, is now in free fall after his growing frustration with NFL teams that had never played before during their meeting. Analysts point to a particularly disastrous interview with the Las Vegas Raiders, where Sanders reportedly spent 20 minutes arguing that his brick for wheat trade offered was more than fair before storming out, accusing the team of not understanding market value. Witnesses claim he left behind a game board and a cryptic note reading, "Call me when you're serious about connecting your cities with roads." And then obviously they've got a picture here of him holding Shedeur Sanders holding the Catan. I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, the point of me with this long-winded joke is that story true or false? In your heart of hearts, is it has the possibility of being true?
I think that there is the story of the Catan. I think it's false. The overall mindset that comes with
Yes,
it, I think is certainly true.
So my answer to your question, and long-winded as it was, it proves a point. In this game, it's not just about your skill set, because most of these players, there's not a lot of parity. They're all pros, right? They're all high caliber college players for the most part. There's not a lot of difference between each one. The difference for Shedeur Sanders is his father. It's the intangibles. It's what he brings or doesn't bring to the table. It's his inexperience and his passive aggressive nature and thinking in his mindset and his mentality. So the game does illustrate a point. When I read that, and I've read the comments, a lot of people thought that was true. Like he literally did that. And the fact that that's a possibility, he would have brought a game board to executives in the NFL, speaks to my point of he's a kid, man. He's a kid. He's immature. He's out for himself and he's not out for the team. And and then the intangibles of just being a part of the Sanders family. Listen, whether there was collusion or not at executive levels, I don't care. If I was an executive, I would have passed on him in a big way, because sports is about teamwork, and the guy didn't show teamwork, no matter how good he was in college. Mic drop. That's all I have to say about it.
No.
What are your thoughts?
I don't necessarily disagree. Listening to all the different analysts come out and share what they shared about the team meetings that he had with NFL executives.
Yeah, it was bad. They were not good.
The first one that I read came from like an anonymous, like assistant coach or something of that nature. And now, there was a couple coaches that were like, no, if you're going to come out and say something, like share your name, like just come on out and say it. So this was legit. It in fact did happen. But it did. It was an anonymous NFL personnel of some sorts, a coach or whatever, that said it was the worst formal interview that he had ever been a fan of.
Yep.
And that's then he goes, and I guess the one that he had with the Giants and Brian Doble apparently again did not go well whatsoever. And
they said it was the worst formal interview they've ever seen.
Yes. So then
that's true,
and that's got to be true, because now obviously they go and they ask Brian Doble about it. He's not going to tell you. He's not going to say what he said.
Because he doesn't want to get verbally abused by
but obviously,
by Sanders.
it didn't end well, because they traded up
to
get none other than quarterback Jackson Dart,
right?
And great QB, Jackson Dart from Ole Miss. And it's like, okay, well, if the fact that you traded up to not get Shedeur Sanders, that obviously means that meeting did not go well.
Yeah,
and
he wasn't on their board.
I completely agree. Now, you have analysts all across the board that think that, they have zero, that the NFL presidents and GMs and whatever have always had a terrible view at scouting QBs and this, that, and the other, and Mel Kiper's losing his mind and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, he is.
Nothing to do with that. There was one particular interview that I listened to, and I said, you know what? I think this hits it right on the nose. He said, what's happening in the landscape of college, where you're giving athletes like him so much power,
right,
that at the first sign of them trying to incorporate that power into the pros, this is them shutting it down. This is a
Absolutely.
message to college athletes like that
Yep.
you don't run the show here.
Right. You don't.
You don't run the show. We
You
pay
do
your
not.
paychecks. You put you if you want to come here, then come here. That's fine. But
That's right.
I
Put in the
think-
work, just like everybody else.
Yeah, and so I think that again, although the Catan thing I think is probably not accurate, I think the overall mindset, the last thing that I heard, which again can completely believe, is that he went in and out of these meetings, and that there was a mutual understanding across the board that he could not care whatsoever what he had to say. Like, or what the teams thought of him, excuse me.
100%.
What the teams thought of him. They walked
Oh,
over
yeah.
him and he could not care.
The
Which means he did not
bombastic
care.
cockiness is
Yeah.
is at a all-time high.
He did not try to impress them enough where he cared.
Yeah.
What they thought of him. And this is where it is. And even
That's
then,
that's a problem for me.
Don't quote me on this because I don't know if this is legit or not. But there was an interview, I guess, that they had with Deion after the fact, right? And maybe a day or two later, I'm not sure. And I think it might have been yesterday. And talking about going to Cleveland or whatever. And he makes the comment that he would pull some strings or whatever because there's no way that he's going to sit behind and not start behind anybody else. And it's like, do you not get it yet? Like, do you not?
He's part of the reason why he fell to Fox.
Yeah.
I don't think he realizes that.
You're the
Deion
only-
Sanders is a part of the. He's a part of the reason why he fell.
You're the
He shouldn't have
only
said
person-
anything. Just like be quiet. Just let it.
Out of everybody that's there, you're the only person that created and built your own draft room. Your own draft room with signs everywhere, legendary, money squared, whatever, trying to be your father. Now, if you don't know, again, as we wrapping up the show, Deion Sanders, coming from Florida State into the pros, was just as bad. And in his
Probably
draft,
worse.
the draft night, cocky, arrogant, chains, glasses, all the above. Before it was cool, he's the one that did it, right?
Yeah.
He backed it up. He obviously
He did.
backed it up, right? We don't know that. It's a different world that we live in. And those meetings with NFL executives proved something. And this is what you saw. You saw that they
They
don't want
didn't want
drama.
anything to do with him.
They
It was
don't want
toxic
anything
for
to do
them.
with him and his attitude, that they'll make
No.
do and they'll be fine. You're not
Yeah.
going to be. You're not so. What's the word I'm looking for?
Special.
Expendable
Yeah,
or unexpendable.
magical. Yep.
Magical, whatever the word it is that you're looking for, that you're not
Yep.
so crazy up there that we need to take the time to bring you in to deal with your nonsense.
Well, in the NFL, everyone's got their own systems, right?
Yeah.
Everyone literally, you have the playbooks. You got to learn their systems. And this guy doesn't listen to anybody. He's had his father as his coach his entire career.
Mhm.
He's not going to listen to anybody. If you can't listen to anybody, you're going to have a big problem
Yeah.
in the NFL. You got to be able to listen to your coaches, head coach all the way down, including, front end, the management team. So someone like this who just doesn't listen at all and they only look out for themselves, it's not somebody I want on the team.
No.
So I
not
can't.
at all.
I don't think they had to collude at the ownership level, like people are saying, for them to want to pass on a guy like this.
If he just
You don't need to collude it. It's like if he goes in and interviews and he has the worst formal interviews anybody's ever seen, they're not going to take him because there's other players like a Dylan Gabriel who will listen, who will learn your systems, who will play by the rules, and probably become your starting quarterback. Honestly, if not this season, next. So.
And not for nothing, not all 32 teams in the NFL, or how many ever teams there are, not every single one of them needed a starting QB.
Right.
Like, so it's like, all right, well, you cut that list in half, or
We didn't need one.
or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
the Bucs aren't looking for one. We've got
We
Kyle
didn't need one.
Trask that everybody
Yeah.
believes in, and it's like, okay, so there's just a lot of teams that aren't looking to bring him in to start, and he
Right.
obviously has presented.
It's a
that
small group.
Yeah, that he has zero desire to come in and sit behind somebody and learn from anybody. So it's like, okay, well then nobody.
It's not the right attitude.
Nobody
He didn't.
wants you.
He dropped the 5. I'm surprised he didn't drop all the way out
No
to
doubt.
undrafted free
I
agent.
was very surprised.
Because I was surprised. I'm like, well, if he's at 5, I don't think somebody's going to take him at this point.
Right.
He's in a free fall to undrafted free agents.
I agree.
Because the attitude is so important.
The
Attitude
attitude
is so important in
Yeah, I
sports.
agree.
Forget football, just in general.
Yeah.
Attitude is so important.
All right. Well, man, great discussion today. Great episode. Again, so glad to be back with all of you. Hope you enjoyed this episode today. We know that we did. We're just excited to be back in action, ready to set back up and doing this as many weeks in a row as we can. It's only, you guys get ready because there's only a month left to school. So once the summer hits, beginning of June hits, I am sure that as we do this, there are going to be some little special guests that will be popping their head in and out. But we are excited to pick this back up and keep rolling with it. This is our episode. This is the end of our episode. Again, thank you all for continuing to listen and support us each and every week. We love you all. Missed you all. Glad to be back. Jeremiah, hope you have a great rest of your week, bro. And
everybody else as well.
Yeah.
And as always, stay prayed up. Take care.
Take care.